Gen Z didn't inherit the future, they inherited the fallout. Born between 1997 and 2012, they are the first generation to grow up with smartphones and the internet not as a novelty, but as a basic utility. Yet instead of stepping into an exciting technological utopia, they've lived through a relentless cascade of crises: the 9/11 attacks, the 2008 financial meltdown, a toxic political landscape, and finally, a once-in-a-century pandemic that robbed them of prom, graduation, and the normal teenage years their parents took for granted. Previous generations faced wars and recessions, but they still held onto a foundational belief that hard work would lead to upward mobility. Gen Z has watched that promise shatter in real time, and with it, any confidence that the world was built for them, or that the American dream was still within reach. Economically, Gen Z is being squeezed from every possible direction. Inflation has made groceries and rent painfully expensive, yet the job market feels fundamentally broken. Applicants send out hundreds of resumes with zero replies, while companies shrink teams and pile on more work without raising pay. A college degree, once considered the golden ticket to security, now often leads to a mountain of student debt with no corresponding job opportunities. Gig work like Uber and DoorDash offers only unstable, stressful income, and homeownership remains a distant fantasy. Only 26% of Gen Z own a home, and many have never been able to leave their parents' houses at all. With the cost of living climbing and the political system offering little relief, young people feel less like they're climbing a ladder and more like they're sliding down a greased ravine. Beyond finances, Gen Z is battling a mental health crisis fueled by social media, isolation, and existential dread. They are the most depressed and lonely generation on record, in part because they grew up without the third spaces, malls, parks, hangout spots that previous generations relied on for social connection. Instead, they live inside algorithmic feeds that serve them a constant stream of bad news, from climate change to political backlash, delivered in real time. They are also the first generation to face the rise of AI, which threatens to automate their jobs before they've even had a chance to build careers. With attention spans shrinking, school and office performance declining, and a growing sense that the world is falling apart, Gen Z is left asking a haunting question: if we can't afford the present, and the future is uncertain, what are we even working for? If you hear one more person called Gen Z, snowflakes, or lazy, stop and listen, because the truth is far more heartbreaking. Gen Z isn't checking out because they're soft, they're checking out because they've been conditioned to fear failure in a way no generation before them ever was. They grew up in a digital panopticon. Every awkward moment, every bad haircut, every stumble was documented, posted, and permanently archived online. By adulthood, they had internalized that failure isn't just a setback, it's content. A single mistake can be screenshotted, stitched, and turned into a viral joke that follows them forever. So what do you do when your worst moments are public property? You stop taking risks. You stop trying. You opt out before you can be humiliated. What older generations call laziness is actually a deeply rational form of self-protection, a quiet survival strategy in a world that never stops watching. And when you understand that, the snowflake label doesn't just feel unfair, it feels like a cruel misunderstanding of a generation set up to fail and then blamed for refusing to play. This isn't just anecdotal. According to a UNICEF study, 60% of General Zers aged 14 to 25 say they feel overwhelmed by the state of the world. The data paints a picture of systemic failure. 57% rely on family for groceries, 53% for rent. Average student loan debt exceeds $30,000, while total personal debt approaches $94,000. Nearly 40% can't find work that matches their skills, and climate anxiety makes long-term planning feel futile. Mental health stats are equally grim. 65% have experienced a problem in the last 2 years, and 42% of high schoolers report persistent sadness. Add in a lack of trust in institutions, a crushing sense of powerlessness, social isolation, and constant global instability, and the result is a generation that has simply stopped believing in the old playbook. Less than half are planning for retirement, and only 41% have emergency savings, not because they're reckless, but because the future feels too uncertain to invest in. Gen Z isn't giving up on life. They're giving up on a promise that was never kept, and honestly, given what they've been handed, that might be the most rational response of all.